Welcome to the podcast, man. Welcome to Intangibles. I really appreciate you jumping on with us. You being a Tennessee guy, a guy who's had a lot of different experiences throughout his life. I mean, I couldn't think of a better person to sit down and talk through what is intangibles, what's the difference between an intangible and a tangible, and why that's important for our young athletes these days, especially when they have a lot to really handle with social media and things that they're dealing with, NIL, transfer portal.
Right.
But before we jump into that, I got to talk to you about your Vols.
I want to talk to you about your Rebels.
We can do that.
Yeah.
The Vols right now is sitting in the same position that Georgia was sitting in
First out
last week.
Yeah.
Being that they've played a really tough schedule, just like Georgia played a tough schedule, do you feel that it's fair for the committee to put them where they are?
My bias side says no. Okay, like it's my Vol side. You cut me, I bleed orange is where I'm at. Because I think as SEC players, we're cocky about our conference. And I look at the folks that's ahead of us as far as we're 11th right now in the CFP, college football playoff poll and ranking. I don't look at what others have done like in Indiana, albeit they're undefeated.
Yeah.
They played, of the 8 bottom teams in the Big Ten, they've played 7 of them.
Right.
Now, they've won, but the challenge of, having a committee say a quality win for another SEC team, Texas, is Vanderbilt and Arkansas.
Right.
But it's not a quality loss for Tennessee. It's the Arkansas win. Those two things don't make sense to me. And also, I get it. Texas at this point only has 1 loss. So I can understand that being the case, but you can't call a quality win Vanderbilt or Arkansas when it doesn't equate to the same on the other side for the Vols. Right. So again, don't lose football games. That's the answer to be had, right? I'm not going to sulk over it because here's the thing too. I do think in this world of having humans determine slots and rankings and polls, there is the wow factor.
Right.
Tennessee has a great following, great fan base, et cetera. But I do think, and I've said this on my radio show I have here in Nashville, is personality traits I think do matter. I think you look at Cignetti and what he's done in Indiana. It's popular. It's new, right? I look at Sarkisian at Texas. He has a personality. I'll look at even DeBoer recently playing at Alabama, playing in a championship game at Washington. And, of course, you guys has got Lane. Lane is a personality that you want to be around. He's going to give you something each and every week.
Every week.
He has a track record for it. That's one thing I do think Josh Heupel I'd never go outside of yourself to be something you're not.
Right.
But the profile of a coach either need to be I hate to say a dictator type that runs with an iron fist, or you need to be a fun, off the wall type of guy like Lane. And I think Cignetti has it, Sarkisian has that, Lane has it, Kirby has it, right?
Yeah.
And those are the teams I feel like we're fighting with right now. Miami, they should win the ACC.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a cakewalk for them. And I honestly think it'd be even better for Colorado to be in it. You imagine Deion Sanders? The hype train, the headline behind it. And then the side that people want to see them be beat also.
Right.
We have, and I can admit it, the Vols are an obnoxious fan base. And I say that with all due respect to all our fans. But I do think there's a little bit of play to be had when proved us you're this good, Tennessee.
Right.
We're in the same spot, but better spot than where Nebraska was. You remember how the college football season kicked off and the wave that Nebraska had?
Right.
We've proven more than them. As it pertains to getting back to that point. But in the world of sports, man, you got to prove it. And then, as a pro yourself, prove it again and then again and then again. Our reputation has to get to that point if you're not going to have a flawless record like Indiana at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you really look at the landscape and with the transfer portal, I mean, it has really changed college football because last couple of years, think about the teams that were undefeated.
Yeah.
And you couldn't lose a game.
Right.
And what do you think has really contributed to now looking at the standings and you seeing a 1-loss team, 2-loss team still at the top of the rankings?
The rankings. Ohio State's that legit. And I do think where you start off in the beginning of the season does somewhat matter too. Texas, I think, is that reason too. Yeah. They took a bad loss to Georgia, but it's Georgia. But the way they got whooped on their home field, you're supposed to fall further than that. Perception is reality sometimes. And being that you have a team like Texas who was somewhat teetering, not good, not great, but just in the middle, you have Texas, you have Ohio State who just wrecked Alabama for recruits and stuff like that as of late. The money, it's even field now. College fans, I think, want to win more than NFL fans.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of small cities that have teams like a Knoxville and Oxford. And the one thing that you have is my football team and how I brag about them.
Right.
Yeah. And for whatever Indiana does moving forward, their fan base better pour into their NIL.
Yeah.
That's just the way we operate these days. And I'll be real, it's just the reason why we're relevant too. Tennessee jumped out first with one of the big high dollar guys, allegedly. Got to throw that out there because we don't know these figures, right? But an $8 million freshman, right? From California, of all places, Nico Iamaleava. Like,
well, I mean, you guys are used to the California guys because the Clausen brothers, those guys are California.
That's true.
So,
and we ended up getting Eric Ainge out of Oregon.
Yep.
So there's that. We played the West Coast game, but where Tennessee was at the time, when you have that type of flex, with a new coach and, you know, fresh into the SEC, it's not like it was a lane going to Oxford to where, oh, he's SEC royalty.
Right.
His dad, money, and all those types of things. No. You had to use the money to get them to that point. And I think that's why I think Coach Saban was smart to bow out. The one thing that he had these days was he can flex them rings.
Yeah.
Now them kids want you to cut that check.
Right. Which I think is cut into depth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's when I look at it, I look at the top of the order. Do they still have the same depth that they had before? Now, teams like Ole Miss, we've never really had the depth.
Yeah. Y'all defense does now.
And now we have depth because we've been able to grab guys out of Florida and different places, Texas A&M, to piece in a little bit more depth into it. And so when you have depth, then you can turn over, you know, 1, 2s, and they still play like ones. You're much further along. And so when I look at the landscape right now, that's what I'm looking at. It's like, what team has depth? And
even more so on that too, not just depth. Like depth can be young guys. No, you got like juniors and seniors because of NIL with depth that will still be NFL players because they're around it and they win and they're known for defense. So Ole Miss has definitely benefited from it, man. And I honestly thought y'all were dead in the water for a while.
It wasn't looking good.
The Kentucky game, I was just like, that's it for Lane? But what did I know as far as the way the committee would determine how that stuff goes, man? But I think it's good still, although we're first out.
Yeah.
I'm praying that Ohio State handle the business when they play Indiana. I'm a hater on that one. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
You can't play a cake schedule
and then show up.
What I don't want to happen is what happened to Notre Dame when they played Bama in the championship.
Right.
You don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. So I do want to see if they can be battle tested against Ohio State.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of how far do they drop at that point? Because the Big Ten does have to have representation.
Yeah. Well, I think we still got a ways to go. So I think it's gonna shake out the way it's supposed to shake out.
Yeah.
And I think that the Indiana game is going to be the one that really tell the tale there. And again, Ole Miss, we're sitting there and we got to wait out.
I think you do though. You got Florida.
Florida, Mississippi State. Still, Florida played well last week against LSU, and so it's not going to be just a cakewalk to win. And Gainesville's hard to play in. It's just a tough place to play. So
apparently, a lot of people are counting this Texas A&M game also just rivalries.
That is rivalry games because that's. I mean, we have to count Mississippi State because it's a rivalry.
That's true.
And so that's why I say we still one game at a time to get there, but we'll see what happens.
Don't you love it though?
I do. It's just this time of the year, man. I'm so excited.
It is. I love it. They got us exactly where they want us. Discussing foolishness like this. God.
Well, talking about your Tennessee days, I got a story about the time that I committed to Tennessee.
You committed to Tennessee?
Yes, I did. But it's not about me committing to Tennessee. It's about one of my best friends, and I think you probably know this guy, who, when I committed to Tennessee, I told him about it. And I knew once I told him about it that there was no chance that he would waver the next year because he was a year behind me.
Okay.
And so when I ended up going to Ole Miss, the next year come up, it was right out the gate that I'm going to Tennessee. I'm going to Tennessee. I tried everything I could just get him there because we were high school teammates, best friends growing up. And you happen to have a chance to play with him, I think, Paris Harrison. Do you remember that name?
My brother.
I mean, when we talk about intangibles, give me a story about Paris when you were playing with him from just his intangibles that set him apart from other people.
He was P. Ryrus is what we used to mess with his name a little bit. He spelled his last name with a Y. His first name with a Y. Paris, man. A weight room guy.
Yeah.
Undersized, some would call him
Yeah.
that. From the South. I mean, just simple as can be, man. His intangibles was his ability to just never take for granted a rep, man.
Yeah.
And his ability to also, I think a lot of people think if I'm good, I can just be good and that's going to help me be the way. No, the ultimate teammate and just person to be around too. If a young guy needed, man, a ride somewhere, he was going to be there for him. He was always first up in the classroom. You know him. He wears glasses and everything, man. God rest him too, by the way, man.
Absolutely.
But his ability to just be fluid and forever learn and to compete and never take a day off and having that mindset of being an underdog, probably because of where he was raised at and how he got out the mud and everything, man, was something that taught me how to be. You know what I'm saying? I'm a small town guy. I'm sure just like you guys were. And going to Knoxville, most college cities are bigger than where you're from anyway, if you're from the South. And seeing how he navigated those waters, man, to be more personable, to not be stuck into this, I hate to say it, but they sometimes categorize it as just dumb guys. Paris was far from that. He was a smart dude that understood that, look, here's a freshman in myself, that I'm going to take advantage of. And he did. I never forget. I thought I was big stuff coming out of high school. And one of my first practices, I'm at tackle and I got to go against Paris. Because Paris I'm 04 graduation and he is 02.
02.
02.
Yeah.
Yes, and by that time, he'd already caught his footing on campus and everything. And I'm about to set on Paris, and he just blows by me. And I'm talking about just dipped under me a move I've never seen before with that type of speed and strength to be able to be. Paris stood, 6'2"?
Yeah, 6'2", probably about
250-ish.
258.
But a ball of muscle, though. Relentless. And I wouldn't call him a superior athlete, but his ability to maximize his strength, man, is one of those intangibles of leverage. Hand usage, has some of the strongest hands that you could possibly shake and just body you. And here I was, a young, soft freshman trying to figure out how am I supposed to catch up to this? But what I didn't understand, he'd already been in the weight room. He understood that, look, I don't know as much as he does as a sophomore. And here I am as a young, dumb freshman at the time. And just relentless. The attitude aspect of what he wasn't born with, he had to develop and craft. It's something I'll never forget. The ultimate respect for him, man. And just, you wanted him on your side.
Yeah.
Is what he was.
Yeah.
And that goes a lot further than how many sacks he got or who he bodied on the play. His ability to pull the best out of his teammates on the defensive side of the ball is where I saw it more, was unmatched. Like, I got a good friend of mine, Robert Ayers, that played in the league too. And he was of the same mindset that Paris helped craft that for him. And like, you mentioned his name amongst the guys that was around him. I'm sure you feel this way too. You feel like he should be in the Hall of Fame.
100%.
Because of the person he was.
The total package.
Man. Is what he was born with. Okay, he maximized that too, right? But that work ethic that comes along with the smarts and effort, I don't think many guys understand what it takes. Like, he was one of the first one to teach me what it takes, what it took to get over the hump as a 3-star myself coming out of high school from a small hometown in West Tennessee. It was funny because one of the things I had was my red shirt freshman year. I progressed a good bit in the spring. I think I won most improved that year and everything. And there was expectation for me. We had a veteran offensive line in front of me, so I wasn't really going to start, but I was going to be sixth man. And we were in training camp, and I was in because somebody got hurt. Jason Respert was a guy that just got hurt at the time, and I'm about to start. No, it was Cody Douglas. Respert was the center. And Cody got his ankle rolled in practice, and I'm about to start. We're in training camp still in Knoxville, and I messed up on the play. And then I messed up again when Coach Foreman was around. And Coach Foreman see me mess up 2 times in a row. And he fussed me out, got onto me, and just, I'm in the dumps at that point. He just told me, take off. And I'm running laps around the entire facility at the time, okay?
Oh, man, not the field.
No, not the field. All the practice fields, okay? Not the 100. All the practice fields. And I make the 3rd lap rotation in Paris. Dang, Foster, how many tell you to run? He ain't give me a number. And he said, oh, I ain't never heard him say that before. He was like, you need to probably ask him when you need to stop the next time around. And that's what I did the next time, Coach. Is that enough? And it was just one of them funny moments to an OG like him at the moment that really threw me for a loop. But that, of course, is the expectation. And him also knowing that I was having a good year, it was just like, why you got to run so much? Again, it's little small things that stepping out and being a guy that you don't really find too much.
Now, tell us the truth here.
Yeah.
There was some hiding spots around there where coaches couldn't see you. How many times did you stop?
No, I'm being real with you. I was so scared at the time, I couldn't. You'll throughout this conversation we'll have, man, you'll see like my mental side, I can push through, and I'm a big guy that also like to run too. Yeah. So
I hate running, not my thing.
I'd much rather run than to do lunges.
No.
Yeah.
Not my thing.
I'll run all day before you put like 50-pound dumbbells in my hand to make me do lunges. You can tell me, Mom, all you got is 20 yards of lunges. I'd much rather run 200 yards.
Man, no.
I'm a sicko like that.
Well, we're going to dive into all that. I appreciate you sharing stories about Paris, man. I just, God rest his soul. He was a dear friend of mine and definitely miss him today. And so thank you for giving us some memories of it because intangibles are, dead alive. Those intangibles matter and it matters to other people. And so now, I don't want people to think as we having these podcasts talk about intangibles and, the importance of them, beyond just your athletic gift. I don't want them to think that we had it all figured out.
Absolutely.
And so you grew up in a small town. Yeah. You were the big man around town. You get to college, you had to find your feet, your footing. Was there anything that kind of come out of big moments that come out of your story that you could have went the wrong way?
Oh, yeah. One, I had a brother in front of me I was chasing. Renardo, he played at Louisville. He was one of the first ones out of our little small town that went D1. So naturally, I'm a little brother. You're supposed to come recruit me. And I owe a lot to him for opening those doors for our little small town. But I never forget when he left to go to college, I felt like I'm big man on campus now. And I'd always been a smart guy, beta club type of dude, senior class president and stuff. But
all right.
We're more than athletes out here, okay? We're more than athletes, which is what I would tell anybody. If you listen to this, be more than what they think you are. That's a different conversation I'm sure we'll have too. But it was my senior year. And I'm having a great year. Tennessee's on me, recruiting me. I'm getting recruited by a lot of SEC schools. Ole Miss was heavy. This is when Coach Cutcliffe was there. That was your coach, right?
My coach.
So I might have been on campus.
So that was 2004.
Yeah,
2003. 2003. Yeah. That was the year we won Cotton Bowl and
all those guys, Kurt Roper, all those dudes was down there, man. And so I'm feeling myself a good bit. And you mentioned like, when did it turn for me? What happened? There was a few other moments that it happened, but this one in particular was what we're saying, be more than an athlete. So I'd always been smart, but I also at that point too, girls getting involved, stardom happened, you start feeling yourself. And my grades didn't slip. I was always smart enough to be able to pass. Right. And I was in trigonometry class my senior year. And I never forget, this teacher comes up to me and I barely just passed the test and she knew I could do more. And she held me after class one day. It was on Friday too. She was like, Ramon, you can play as much football as you want to and do all the things that you like in life. She's like, but if you don't have these grades together the way you should, you're not going to really amount to much in life. And it hit me because I'm like, the biggest thing to come out of this school at this point. I know my brother went to Louisville, but I'm playing at Tennessee. Like, they're recruiting me and coaches are coming in every other day. And over a math test that I passed, barely passed, and it really just... She made me so mad, but to this day, I've never forgotten that story because what it made me realize is you're an athlete, but life is so much longer than that. And even in that young moment, I went out and had a great game that night because I was still so mad at her.
Just punishing guys. In high school, you can be mad and punish guys.
Absolutely.
Be uncontrolled.
But I was reflecting on that though, like once I got to college, and then of course you got study hall and you see guys go on academic probation or get kicked out or can't play in games because of suspension. I reflected back on that moment, her telling me I was more than what I was or more than I thought I was. And I still tell it, like I'm telling that story to this day. This is in 2003. And I've never forgotten that. And I always make sure I tell her that when I see her too, because nowadays we spoke about NIL earlier or social media now, like you have to be able to be more than just an athlete these days. Being able to have a conversation and hold a conversation. A lot of kids aren't fluent in that. A lot of people aren't fluent in making good grades because they don't have to anymore. Because at 18, I'm going to be making $40,000 a month because I'm good at sports.
Right.
And I know you yourself are big into sports itself too, because we're sitting here doing this. And that to me, I think is one of the biggest pivots. And that I also teach my boys that anytime I talk to an athlete, how your grades?
First thing.
Yes.
First thing.
If not the first, the second.
My son doesn't have his phone right now.
Oh, he doesn't?
Because he has a C.
You ain't wrong.
It's one C.
Yeah.
And his phone is, when we got a cell phone, we made him sign a contract.
I love that.
And in his contract, you get a C, your phone belongs to us. And he hasn't had it for probably 3 weeks now.
We got to wait till the end of the semester.
And he's going into Thanksgiving. He won't have his phone. And so we're firm believers in got to have the grades because this game is going to end.
And honestly, for me too, that moment, like fast forward to the end of my college career, I was undrafted. And it was that last year, I just had a child. Like there was a lot going on from my last year. And grades was one of those things. It was like, all right, I'm trying to make it to the league so I can, provide for my child. One of the most proudest moments that I had was my mom being able to watch me walk across that stage though too. Because at the time my brother at Louisville hadn't graduated. He was already in the NFL as an undrafted guy too. But I was the first college graduate in my family. And that was one of the most proudest moments ever. Have a picture of me holding my son with my then girlfriend, now wife, now us together. Like that was a cool moment, but it solidified what Miss Martha Webb told me in 2003. You're more than just a football player. And I was hesitant also on walking across the stage. I'm ready to go train for the combine. That's all. I'm ready to go. My mama made me. You gonna walk across the stage. And I'm glad I did, man, because you never know how your career is gonna go and what pitfalls you're gonna have or what conversations you're gonna have to be able to articulate through education or having some understanding of this world and how it evolves. And I know it's changed a little bit now. A lot of people get rich and be successful off of TikTok or whatever. But there is a core of America in this world, I think, that still has to be a part of the fundamentals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about this teacher pulling you aside and telling you this.
She dogged me that day.
And you were mad about it.
Yeah.
The reason you were mad about it because you already knew it.
I was selling myself short.
Yeah, you knew you were selling yourself short.
100%. But I thought she was going to be cool enough to let me be less than. And she wasn't.
Yes. And we're seeing that. I had a conversation with a guy on a podcast not too long ago, and he was saying as a college coach, he was seeing that as a junior college coach, he was seeing that these kids were just passing through because a lot of people just don't want to deal with the headache of who the kid is in the classroom. And so I think that, kids hearing this and understanding that because I don't think they're hearing it anymore, that someone who's can hold you accountable, that you're more than an athlete.
Yeah.
We want to know the human inside you.
100%.
And if you understand the human inside yourself, then there's a lot of things you can do in this world, and not just football or basketball or whatever sport you play.
That's one of the biggest aha moments I ever had right there is figuring out me. And there's more than just figuring out myself as a husband, as a dad, but like myself first. That in itself is a strong conversation. I know we're going to have that. So I don't want to project and move too forward to it.
Well, I mean, you just talked about, being a undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
The expectations are getting into your senior year. You just said you was excited to get across that stage so you can go train for the combine. Did you expect to be an undrafted free agent?
Heck no. I think second team SEC. I was a 2-year starter at the time. In 2007, we just played in the SEC championship. I think at the time I got like a 5th round grade back, and I'm trying to go back to make it better. And that summer also, I end up having a child that next summer going into my senior year. So a lot is weighing on me at that point in time. And I had a good year. We lost. We were 5-6 my last year, or whatever we were. 5-7. And it just didn't add up for me. So I go to the combine. We can go ahead and get to this. We go to the combine. I get to the my combine training. I go to Cincinnati of all places, where my agent was at the time. And I'm training for that. I'm ready to go. I got to figure out how I'm going to pay for daycare, how I'm going to pay for rent back home. I'm not on scholarship checks no more.
Right.
I'm on my own, and I'm feeling good about everything. I get to the combine in Indianapolis. And the worst day of my professional career, starting off, okay? Had other bad days too, but I did not test well at all. I ran like a 5.5 and a 5.56 in the 40. As a tackle,
that
don't translate, does it?
Yeah.
But I played. So I jumped like a 26 or 28 vertical. I just had a bad, on my 42, we're in the Colts Stadium.
Yep.
And I'm about to run my 40. I catch a nosebleed.
Mm.
I'm talking about wintertime comes around, dry air and everything like that. And I'm bleeding and I'm trying to hold my face up. And I'm telling the guys like, hey, I got a nosebleed. It's like, well, we're live. You got to go. I got no time. I get it to stop somehow in between the run, in between the next guy that's supposed to go before me. And if you watch that, my head is somewhat tilted back as I'm sniffing blood back up. And I ain't trying to.
The wrong thing you want to do in a 40 is you're putting the brakes on with that.
Oh my gosh. And I run that and I'm feeling it or whatever at that time too. So I get another one. It's the same thing. I'm still sniffing, trying to figure out what's what. I leave it. And you know when you've had a good showing. I leave with my manager at the time and I'm quiet in the car. And I think he knew and I knew. How you feel? I'm all right. And we didn't really say too much after that. You know when you've had a good day or not.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, combine over, I leave Cincinnati, go back to Knoxville. Well, I can always redeem myself, right? Because I got the pro day. UT had a pro day. About a day before, I started feeling something like, what is going on? I go to the training room day before the pro day. I got the flu.
Oh.
So my redeemable moment never comes again. Mind you, I graduated, so I knew I had that to fall back on, but I'm chasing my dream. This is what matters to me most. But I also need to perform. I did weigh in less, but I could do no field work. 101 fever. Like I showed up to the pro day that day with 101 fever. I couldn't do anything. Man. Like I could have tried.
Right.
All right, somebody probably hear this and be like, well, if you wanted it. No. I don't think you understand what 101 fever feels like. And
as a big man trying to run the 40, I mean, that's not our thing anyway. So,
and then on top of that, you know, when those coaches come on campus to do the drill work, they break you off. Yes. It's not about what can you do, it's how much can I make you fail.
Yeah.
But I weighed in lighter. I couldn't do the bench press, couldn't do the high jump, couldn't do the 40, couldn't do the field work. And I just had to sit there on a knee and just watch everybody do everything while being sick. And I'll never forget, like, fast forward to the draft. At that time, it was 4 days, Thursday through Sunday. First day, all right, I'm not going to get it. Second day, second and third round, all right, I might be able to get something. We get to Saturday, and I'm just like, okay, what's next? Nothing, no call, no anything. And mind you, my wife is at work, and I'm holding my son. And that for the first time, like towards the end of the draft was one of the first time I like cried. Like I'm not ashamed to say, like, having your dream shattered, like 4 days of waiting. And like I had him in my lap. I never forgot. I was sitting on the floor watching it because it's a spectacle. And this is hopefully my potential job.
Yeah.
Or I wanted to hear my name called. And when it got close to the end, I realized like I cried. Like, and at that point, I was just, I got to figure this out. I got to. And then, of course, it gets better because towards the end of the draft is when they start calling free agency and stuff like that. And it's like, hey, we got maybe 2 more picks. I don't know what we're going to do, but you're on our board. And I have like call after call. After the draft is over, I didn't get drafted. Reality sets in. How am I going to take care of this child? My girl, how are we going to do this? And I get offers from the Jets. It was like 13 offers. Jets was serious, Steelers was serious, Browns was serious. Those were my 3. Baltimore was in that conversation also. But it was a matter of money and sense is where it was too.
What's my opportunity to actually really showcase myself?
And I got to give it to my agent at the time because had it been left up to me, I'd have probably gone to Cleveland because they flirted with me the most. Throughout the process, whoever the regional scout was, he was just on me. You need to come to Cleveland. Like, and they were really on me hard. Jets offered the most money, but I was afraid to go to New York, to be honest with you, a little bit too.
The Southern boy up in the big city, the Big Apple.
And I never gone northern than, at that time, heck, Ohio. So I was just like, I don't know about New York, but they offered the most money. They offered me $16,000. Okay, as an undrafted free agent. Pittsburgh offered me $8,000. The taxes somewhat correlated about the same.
Yeah.
I ended up walking away with, I think, like $5,200, $5,400. And that was all rent, daycare. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And just
already set aside.
And my agent told me this too. It's like, I know they're offering you less than the Jets, but I'm telling you, Pittsburgh is a land of opportunity, is what he told me. You have a shot to go play there. I know they like you. You are a priority free agent of theirs. Priority free agent is like, if there was an 8th round, I'd have been drafted by a team. And mind you this too, I'm so locked in and got my kid and combine failure and everything too. It didn't register to me that Pittsburgh had won the Super Bowl. I had no idea walking into their building that Pittsburgh had won the Super Bowl. Because if I'd had really thought about it.
What year was that?
This was 2009 for me.
09.
So they won it in 2008 with the James Harrison.
Yeah.
All the way.
I'm still a little upset about that 2005 that we lost to Pittsburgh. So, we're not going to dive into that.
Well, I can understand because I ended up losing the Super Bowl my second year.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget walking to that building, and one of the first things, Chris, you ask like the intangibles of everything. I know I didn't test well. That's what I was born with, right? They can see.
Those are the tangibles.
Those are the tangibles. He didn't do this good, that good, that good, that good. But immediately when I walk into the weight room, when the rookies get in, the strength and conditioning coach, you got a good shot to make this team. Me? You drafted somebody in the 3rd round. What are you? Like, okay, all right, whatever. I'm young and dumb. Okay, whatever. But then like the next day, the assistant line coach comes and say the same. It's like, big fella, you got a shot to really make this team. So what are y'all saying that I didn't see? And where were y'all at on draft day? Because I needed that. You know what I'm saying? I needed to know that I belong. So I hear those two things like the first 2 days of being inside the building. Mind you, we ain't got no pads on. We got nothing going on. I'm just an undrafted free agent from Tennessee. So we move forward. Let's go to training camp. And I never forget, I had a roommate at the time. We both shared the same number too. I was 73O, he was 73D. We get into the fight aspect of like training camp, trying to position ourselves. You know how it is, a bunch of bravado, rookie against rookie, rookie versus vet. And I'll never forget Coach John Mitchell, D-line coach. He comes up to us. He was like, this is getting tight in camp. I just need y'all to know this ain't college. We don't do double numbers in the NFL. We're roommates, okay?
Oh, man.
We're roommates. And he tells me this, and I'm like, this is where the intangible part comes in. This is where survival comes into the part. And I created this mindset then. I was just like, if there's a game between me and you, I'm going to step on your neck to get what I want. At that point, I knew how to fight. I knew how to block. My 40 time doesn't tell me who I am. I only bench 20 on the 225 press. I'm stronger than that. Just repping it out ain't my thing. I can play football. And at that point, I proceeded to try to dog everybody in sight. And I did. I was 73-0 for 11 years.
Unbelievable career.
Yeah,
Unbelievable career. And to go undrafted, to have all this weight on you, having a kid, be undrafted, and then now you're in training camp battling for your dream.
Yeah.
And can you look back at the time in college, look back at the time of that early part of training camp before you got to that moment of like when that light flipped on for you to say, this is the intangibles that I know is going to get me way further than these guys. So I know I'm upset about my tangible pieces.
I couldn't help that.
Can't help it. Yeah. But what I can control is my intangibles.
Let me tell you about that then. That's fascinating. It helped me get to that point. Nobody's ever asked like that. What happened in college? I redshirted my freshman year to get stronger. I didn't know what I didn't know. Heck, I thought my pass set was like Jonathan Ogden. It wasn't, okay? It wasn't that good. So I had to figure out technique. And then I told you, like, what I understood was work. Like, coming from small towns that just raised the way we are at times, see my mama work, see my stepdad work. Like, I knew work was going to get me. My grandfather, man, is just turned 86, okay? And all I've ever seen him do was work and grind, and he's very successful. My uncle, too. And I knew I had some athletic ability, so I said, I'm going to hit this weight room. We're going to get up every single day and do this and just go and try to dog it. So I ended up winning most improved my redshirt freshman year. So I knew if there was something to be successful, it's going to have to come through hard work, my strength, and, hey, I'm tough mentally. You can get me, but I promise I'm going to ask for another rep. And that's what my career was, I felt like, at Tennessee. I felt I should have started my redshirt sophomore year. For whatever reason, it did not happen. And I was mad. It was '06. I'd also pledged Kappa that year too. So I was having fun. I was having fun also. And I don't know what led to me not starting. And of course, in college, sometimes you got to wait your turn. There's juniors and seniors in front of you. But that next year, I couldn't stomach not playing. Mind you, they're also getting other 4-stars in. Recruiting never stops. Competition never stops. So I told you I won that most improved my redshirt freshman year. Well, we got right back to it. I won it again for the spring. So if I'm not mistaken, one of maybe two-time winners of most improved.
Back to back. I mean, that's...
And I had something to prove.
Yeah.
So you asked me what got me to that point in Pittsburgh. It was those moments. I felt like I got slighted. The same thing happened in Pittsburgh too. And we can get to that in a minute. But I just felt like with all the work that I'd done, I'm here. I check every single box. My grades are fine. You asked me to come here to compete. I just created a chip on my shoulder like none other, to where if I got to fight every single day, I'm going to. And I also learned that too.
Yeah.
You can't just roll the ball out and expect it to work in your favor. Sometimes you got to go snatch it.
Right.
And that's what happened my junior year. And I was not about to let go because you were a starter. It feels good to hear your name called.
Yes.
To be one of them 11, and I liked that feeling. I can't even lie to you about it. You work hard to get rewards.
Well, you know, the thing that's interesting to me is, my big question for you is, how did you stay humble knowing that you was going to put your foot on anyone's neck to get what you need where you want? Who did you lean on to be able to manage that? And because nowadays, you got social, and everybody, when they got some beef with anybody, or if they feel slighted any kind of way, it's out there for the public eye. How did you manage that and give us something that this generation can hear, that why this is important to do it in this way?
I'm glad you asked that, because I was feeling like I was slighting my guys real quick. What I will say is this: you are who the company you keep. I'm a firm believer in that. My roommates, I'm gonna reel off this list of guys, and you'll be like, what in the heck? But we created a bond together too. Like, those early mornings wasn't just me. It was guys. I'm a firm believer, like birds of a feather flock together. And when I tell you this group of friends that I had, we worked out together every day, study hall every day. We lived together. We were in each other's weddings, and we all are very much still successful. And I can say that now at 38 years old. But my roommates were Inky Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Gerard Mayo. Robert Ayers. And Sinclair Cannon is a business owner now in South Carolina. That was my group. My advice to young men and women who are trying to figure out how to navigate success throughout the course of life: find a group. Like, I had a group in high school too, 4 of us. All of us went to college. All of us are successful husbands now too. And then I replicated that same thing in college. Like, I was pushed because I saw Mayo had more talent, and I saw him go first round, and I saw what his work ethic was after he tore his ACL. And then with Inky, like, nobody more fearless than him. Like, just a grinder, a 2-star out of inner city Atlanta. That made it out to the University of Tennessee. And at that point had got a first-round grade back from the NFL before he ended up getting injured. And now he's a world-renowned motivational speaker. Robert Ayers, who I saw be troubled early in his career, flip it around to understand work ethic, because he saw me, Ink, Mayo, and Sinclair working. It actually, if he was on this conversation with us right now, he would tell you, I saw y'all working. So I jumped in too. And he ended up flipping himself into a first-round draft pick to the Denver Broncos, right? Or Sinclair Cannon, who didn't make it pro, who's now a multi-business owner in South Carolina. Like, the company you keep can lead to your success also. Yeah. I'm a firm believer in that. The way we communicate and talk and what you have going on, like-minded people, man. If you are with a bunch of losers, you're probably going to be one too. Or if you win around them, eventually they will drag you down also. So that group, man, to this day, Gerard's the head coach of New England Patriots. That's how also. Yeah. And my brothers too, I must say. Having my brother Ron Slay, who's was a professional basketball player too. I wanted what he had. My brother Renardo went undrafted. I saw how he went and got it too. A lot of people look at other people's successes and might get jealous over them.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Ask them how.
Yeah.
Figure it out to any person that's trying to seek success. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to lean on others either. And don't be afraid to say what you don't know. I didn't know a lot, but I wasn't afraid to figure it out also on my own, lean on other dudes. We were trying to figure out how we was going to pay rent or eat on the night or how we was going to get, food after the game. It's a beautiful process, man, to get to that point. That's why I always try to lean back and help others too, because I didn't get here on my own either.
Yeah.
But it starts with a mindset.
And that mindset is the company you keep. Because the things that you don't do well, you watch someone else do it, and then it motivates you to do it.
Yeah.
Don't look at their success as a slight to you.
Mm-hmm.
Look at their success as a motivation to get you to the next level.
And I'm not even afraid to say this. I saw how Mayo became a first-round draft pick. The way he worked, if you can take me back to 2006, I'd have followed him every single day he went after we worked out. Because you don't go top 10 overall just off of raw talent. Mm-hmm. I saw him put in the extra and how it benefited him too. That's the one thing that if you ask me, Ramon, what would you change? I would have understood how to work harder like he did after the work was done.
Yeah.
That's the one. And Inky's in that conversation too before he got injured. And Rob had a monster senior year. Like, that was just his tangibles finally waking up.
Right. Because the work is the work.
The work is the work.
It's what you're doing when no one's watching.
I saw that dude create a crazy work ethic.
I'm
not afraid to say that.
Yeah. But that's now being able to the maturity and knowing that, you've had some challenges going through that process, and then you can look back in hindsight and say, well, if I do this and do this better, you were able to look at it, but then now enter Pittsburgh, have 11 years in the NFL, and you cultivate that mindset.
Yeah.
Because you saw it, and now you can do it and benefit from doing it.
And I had to use it going into my second year too. I started 4 games my rookie year in Pittsburgh, and I thought it was just going to be a shoe-in the next year. Again, projecting what's not there. And you need to always work for something. Work always pays off eventually. That's one of the first things Inky said to me in our dorm, because I was frustrated at that time when I wasn't starting in like OC. He said, big homie, the cream always rises to the top. And he's like, all that stuff that's at the top, it usually settles. And I had to tell myself that in my second year, because I told you I was between me and a third rounder, and there was a competition at guard that I didn't win that year. They actually ended up cutting the third rounder to keep me, but I wasn't a starter. So I still felt slighted. Lo and behold, I kept my head down and kept grinding, and I ended up being the starter at right guard that took us all the way to the Super Bowl that year. And then the next year too, Chris, they drafted a guy again in front of me. And here I was having to fight for my position again. And they had just paid another guy on the other side and converted him to a guard. So I'm out again. And having to overprove myself has always been my story. I think sometimes in life we have our certain curses that I like to call. I feel like mine is I'm always have to be a worker. And luckily for me, and I thank God for this, I'm mentally tough enough to handle some of the things that come my way with leaning on others too. I had a first rounder drafted at my position. And I told you that just paid the guy on the other side. It's funny how the world works. We were in Buffalo for a preseason game. They had just drafted David DeCastro, who's a known right guard.
Yep.
Guess who plays right guard? Me. At the time. They just paid Willie Colon on the left side. And going into that third preseason game at the time, that's when you know who your starters are going to be. They came to me and was just like, hey, we're going to roll with David. And I'm just, what did I do? What can I do to be better? And about 4 plays into the Buffalo Bills game up there, he partially tears his ACL. And here's my moment. I didn't let go. I stayed at right. Willie was at left. You want to hear what's even crazier than that, though, Chris? We're playing well and doing our thing. Dave's this is when you designate IR to come back at the time. We are, he was close. And I'm like, I know I've played well. Mind you, too, this is a contract year for me. I just got my tender. And I'm just like, I'm playing my lights out at this point. I feel like But I felt like when Dave gets healthy, they're going to bump me again. Fate happens. Willie tears his Achilles. And that was my spot for the next, at that time, 8+ years.
I'm reflecting back on what you said earlier when you first got to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
You said that the coach came to you and said, hey, you got a chance to make this team.
Yeah.
Defensive line coach came to you and said, you got a chance to make this team.
Yeah.
And you were wondering, well, you looked at all my tangible stats. What are you seeing that I'm not seeing?
Mm-hmm.
They saw those intangibles and carry that forward to Mike Tomlin. He saw the intangibles that he can draft a guy, he can bring in another guy in the third round. He can do this because he knew you could handle it.
You sound like him.
I watched this man, and I know that he knows how to identify intangibles, which it's a part of why I'm doing what I'm doing, because those intangibles are so important. And when you have somebody who can identify them and then also help you learn what your intangibles are and help you develop them, then you become better. And hopefully with this podcast that we can deliver this message to people that these intangibles are important. And so thinking about how Mike, just hearing your story and thinking about who Mike is, he knew you can handle it.
Wow. Chris, you want to hear something that's funny? Okay. So I
hope you said called him and said thank you to him, a ladder or something.
No, I haven't. We've had conversations before. I started asking the guy who was that scouted me at Tennessee that was from Pittsburgh. He said, when you're done, I'm gonna send you your card, my draft card. They never used it, but he's like, I'm gonna send you your draft card on what we had on you. And he was like, everything that we wrote about you is what you did. I was like, yeah, right. Oh, you know you did. And what they had in my bio, my write-up was, if you ever put something in front of him, not in these words, if you ever put something in front of him, he's gonna beat it. Coach Tomlin said that to me. It was going into my last contract. And I was nervous because they had a couple of young guys that were, I knew they could play, but I had that exit meeting with Coach Tomlin. I'm trying to figure out, y'all gonna pay me one more time, and what are we doing here? Like, I know I'm getting older in age and everything else, but what can I do? He said, Mon, you're gonna be fine this offseason. What are you talking about, Coach T? He's like, from the time we met you at the combine, we knew this. We knew that if we ever put anybody in front of you or challenge you, that you was never gonna turn it down. He's like, and that's how we got to this point right now. And it just struck me because we talk about the intangibles, right? I got long arms. I'm 6'6", 300 pounds, like all of that. There's a lot of them dudes walking around, right? You've seen a lot of them dudes that just couldn't do it.
Right.
He was just like, and this is where he got me. He said, the same way we look at somebody that runs a 4.3, that can bench 225, 35 times, can jump a 40-inch vertical. He said, that's talent. He said, you have a talent that you don't even realize. And I'm flabbergasted. What are you talking about? It's like the same way I can judge that person off their long jump, I can judge you off your mental toughness. He was like, and that's what you've always had. He's like, whatever we put in front, it's like, yeah, we brought in people on purpose sometimes, just because we knew we was going to get a better version of you. And so I've always said to people, like, you ain't got to be the fastest, the biggest, the strongest, the tallest, whatever the case may be that coaches are looking for. But mentally being tough is a talent too. And my boys, I got 2 boys, 16 and 12. I know they have talent. Talent is going to be there. Where people fail at, Chris, I'm getting anxious over here. It's talking about this because it gets me going. People quit on themselves or let scenarios, even when it's bad and there's no way out, and take them under. Yeah. And I never prescribed to that, which is, I know, one of the reasons why I survived as long as I did. Mental toughness is a talent the same way a bench press is.
And I think you had a combination, because here's what I've been studying and thinking about, the difference between mental toughness and mental performance. Okay. There is a difference. Mental toughness it can serve you for so long, because at some point your body will break down. At some point you can't get, but the mental intelligent aspect of it, and the intelligence is being aware, how do I handle these situations? How do I stay humble in these situations? What's my work ethic? All those things with the combination of that mental toughness has made you, has made your career, because the mental toughness aspect will fail you at some point.
It will.
Because it's a lot of weight to carry.
It is.
But when you have the marriage between that mental toughness and that mental performance aspect, which again, it can fall in that category of critical thinking, it can fall in the category of mental performance or mental intelligence. Those are those categories. But those two together, that's the piece that I want people to also to understand is that, I can continue to run through this brick wall, and I'm not getting anywhere, but I'm tough and I'm hard and I can get, I'm just going to keep pounding it. But at some point I have to be able to say, okay, I haven't gotten through this wall after 10 times trying to get through it. How do I adjust?
And that's also being real with yourself too, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
And that's where I had to even do that. Like even with contracts, right? Like that can weigh on you heavy. I think I deserve this. I know sometimes, to your point, be aware.
Been there.
Be aware. And like I used to try to do certain stuff like other players. Like the Castro came, I was like, I got to figure out how in the heck I can get a Pro Bowl. And you know what? I got to a point in my career, so I was just like, you're a starter in this league for a reason. Do those things that you're good at. I was the first alternate one year. Had I had somebody decline it, I'd have been in the Pro Bowl. But I couldn't let that get to me because that would have wore on me too, right? And to your point about figuring out your mental development and just performance, I figured this out. Don't feel slighted if they don't ask you to pull. I'm a bigger guy. DeCastro can't pull if I'm not showing up the front side of the offensive line.
Right.
If I'm getting pushed back, he can't go do his job.
Right.
Be good in the phone booth. I ain't got no problem with that. Right. Pass protection was my strong suit. Yeah. I know how to set the angles because mentally, I'm strong enough to handle that. The performance side of it is dictate what they're going to do first. All right, if you're a bigger body guy, they can't run through you. So if they go around you, I'm gonna push them by. Yeah. Again, the understanding of the profession, to your point, does have to have the performance side of the mentals too. Yeah. You're right. I've seen guys crash out. I'm strong enough. No. Switch your thinking. And for a guy like me, being the undrafted guy on the line, you still matter.
Right.
And a lot of the times, to your point, the ego side of things, that can eat you up. I've seen free agents in the NFL be more boisterous than the starters and all pros were because they felt like they had to show that they belong. No, just be there. Yeah. And I got comfortable being there because there's a lot of benefits on just being there.
100%. I mean, you see guys do it for a career for a long time. Being there. Yeah. But when their number's called, they're ready to go.
They be ready to go. Jerry Hughes is a guy right now, 15 years in right now playing for the Texans. He's the guy that's been there. And I was having a discussion about him earlier. Like his earlier years, he didn't pan out the way they thought he was going to be until he went to Buffalo. Then he had to reshape himself. Right. He became a bully and created a reputation and learned how to finish to where now, to your point, somebody wants his services at 15 years in the NFL at DN, where he's gotten slower. Yeah. His strength probably isn't the same, but there's something that he's bringing to the game, the intangibles that a team wants.
Tone setter.
So that's what I think of Jerry Hughes. He's a tone setter.
Right. Which is everybody have a role.
Yeah.
When you have a team, everybody has a role and it's important. That's why you have to be aware of who you are and what role you're going to play. Yeah. And don't be worried about other people's role.
Yes. And that was something too that I had to figure out also. On our offensive line, we had Marquise Pouncey, Florida Gator. Potential Hall of Fame center guy, that type of guy. And what was funny about that, you saying having a role, I would lead from the side more than like being out front because Marquise is the guy. That's the name. That's the face they recognize. He's got the accolades behind it. But we collab on a lot of things to where he'd be out front getting the recognition, but inside the room, everybody knows the role. Yeah. And a lot of guys struggle with that, specifically men, I think.
Absolutely. Sure. Absolutely, man. This has been a great conversation so far, man. I like to do this quick segment, kind of like this halftime going into 2 minutes, not halftime in fourth quarter, but and it's pretty rapid fire questions. So just a little lightweights here.
Can we take a
absolutely get you a little sip of this brown. I think people started to figure out that I enjoy collecting bourbon. So
Aficionado.
Yeah.
So you're not foreign to it, is what we're saying.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right. First one after your sip here. Favorite NFL moment?
It was a preseason game in Washington. My rookie year. I go out there, and mind you, from a small town, I never been to a NFL game. My first NFL game was a game I played in.
Wow.
We were at Washington FedEx Field at the time, right? And when I walked on the field for my rookie reps, I looked at the crowd, scanned it side to side, and I literally pinched myself. I did. That awesome. Was one of the coolest moments. I could throw the Super Bowl out there, but at that moment in my life, I couldn't, because I'd said it as a kid. I want to play in the NFL. And I literally pinched myself and said, all right, here we go.
That's awesome. I didn't do that when I got drafted.
You didn't?
No. I did it when I bought my first home and walked into it and pinched myself. I was like, wow.
That's a moment.
God's good.
Yes.
Yeah. Funniest teammate?
Funniest teammate? Robert Golden.
Why?
Because he could mock folks at any point in time. He don't care that you will joke him. He was by far one of the funnest teammates I've ever had, man. Him or Marquise Pouncey, because Marquise don't care. He's a Florida guy that would say the most off-the-wall thing in the most inappropriate time to the most important people. He just does not care, man. Those two dudes, man, my brothers for sure.
That's awesome. That's toughest D lineman you face. It could be college or pro.
Geno Atkins.
Ooh. Forgot about that name.
Leverage.
Oh, man. Powerful.
You remember what I told you? I'm a big guy, run through me. He had enough leverage to be able to do that.
Yeah,
I tried to trap him one time. And, when I pulled him, you know how they usually go to the ground?
Yeah.
He went like an escalator, rolled right back up and pushed me back. I never did that again against him. Or, I got another name for you, Calais Campbell.
Long, though.
Long
arms.
And that, to me, with a guy with a long arms, your arm's not supposed to be longer than mine.
Yeah.
Like, it was confusing to me.
Yeah.
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 Calais and Geno.
Yeah. I remember when he was in Arizona and he would line up over the center.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was a little kid because he'd have his hands on the back of my shoulder pads and I'm sitting there like,
yeah. You know what I did?
Hey, man, you're supposed to be out there at the tackle spot. You know what I'm supposed to be here.
You know what I did to him one game? First play, I cut him. I got to establish it. Mental performance, right?
There you go. Make adjustments.
I got to cut him first.
He's not going to throw that body out there
just to show him my will. Yes.
I like it. I like it. Last one. And I know there's going to be some bias in this one here. Favorite stadium to play in?
Favorite stadium to play in?
College.
In college? Ooh. Let's go. I'm thinking. Probably LSU.
Oh, man. 3 for 3 right now. LSU, some SEC guys.
Yeah, LSU. It's a party. They understand the lead up to it. And it also helps that I won there too. Like, that helps also.
I'm with you.
But they party and cuss you out like none other. They have a college environment, man, that when they're good and they're rocking, you want to be on the other side that's walking up with your head up high. That's the only reason why.
Fun place. My number one spot.
It's yours too?
My number one spot. Hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down.
I don't know. We won down there one time, man. It's talking about understanding the assignment. We're walking down. The coach Foreman's in the front seat. That's where coaches are on the charter bus leaving out.
Yeah.
Some dude, man, runs up like he's throwing a javelin and just throws his beer bottle at the front window, cracks the windshield. It didn't shatter.
Ooh.
But they were so upset. Just because they don't care. Football matters to LSU.
It matters down there.
Yeah,
that's why it's one of my it is my favorite college stadium to play in. Hands down. So,
in my retirement, I hadn't been there. Have you gone to your retirement?
I haven't.
I want to go.
I was supposed to go down this year when we played down there.
Yeah.
Night game, and I didn't get a chance to go, but it's on my and I when I go, it has to be a night game. So that's the only way to do it. All right. That's great. So as we kind of transition back in here before we wrap this thing up, your transition from the NFL to real life has gone pretty well from the naked eye.
Yeah.
From watching you, not knowing how the daily grind of that transition out of the league. And I know a lot of guys go through that transition. Yeah. How have that transition been for you?
I'll be honest with you. COVID happened. Right. So that was the thing. I thank God I wasn't in the NFL at that time because I'd have hated that whole protocol. But how it went, I was setting it up as I was about to retire. I got to a point at about year 8, 9, about 9. I knew I kept saying this door is more closed than it is open.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing media stuff. I had a player show in Pittsburgh, the Ramon Foster show that I was doing there.
Okay.
I'd become more media savvy with speaking with folks. I also, as a pro, got braces too because I had crooked teeth in college, man, and I couldn't afford braces then. So I did that. I was taking steps to get to that point. And I knew I wanted to do something in sports media. So much so, you know how the locker room is. Guys be like, and I'm talking to the reporter, moans in the media. They was joking me and stuff. And lo and behold,
there
it
you
paid
go
off.
again.
I know, there you go again, talking to the media moan, and all those types of things. But I knew with what I had made in the NFL, I was going to have to do something. Mm-hmm. But I also knew I liked doing sports media work too. And I knew I was going to be in Nashville area. So I had to figure out how can I get my feet in with this industry. So I knew I needed reps. When the 2019 draft came to Nashville.
You said a mouthful there, reps.
Yeah, I had to get my reps because I never want, and you are the same way, I'm sure. I never want to be this dumb jock that was handed something because I did something that they liked.
I'm glad you said reps in this context because people think that reps is working out, working it. They think reps are, getting on the field, getting reps from an athletic perspective as an athlete. No, reps is
work and experience.
Getting the experience, getting the reps in the media. So carry on. Sorry, that's just really
right.
important.
You can't, I think sometimes as athlete, not to get out too far off the road, but sometimes athlete, we think that everything's supposed to be handed to us. And for the most part it is. Once you get to college, if you go D1, it ain't much you got to worry about.
Power 5. Man,
Power 5, meals, drinks, food, like
schedule.
You don't have to
workouts.
worry.
How do you?
But in this world, I always say, I don't want to be taken as a joke. If I'm getting into something, I need to have some experience in it, or I'm going to ask a lot of questions that's going to slow my process down. Yeah. So before I get to that point, let me get my reps up. And that was with my player show. That was me doing like national shows with folks on NFL Network or ESPN. I went on Pat McAfee. Like there was a lot of things that I was doing to get to this point to where I am now in the Nashville media space. I now work for the Titans on sideline doing radio with them. I got my radio show here in Nashville that I do also. So that transition for me was COVID happened, changes were happening, and they ended up letting guys go at the station I was at. And mind you, while I was playing in the off season, I did work with a couple of stations here in Nashville. Okay. So my name was in that pot and they knew I had interest in it. Yes, I established myself because I knew to that point, like, I made money and saved well and done everything. But because of my granddad and how I was raised, I'm going to work as a man. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was going to figure something out. So that's where I started that. And they called me in July. Hey, some stuff is about to start getting open. Would you consider? I had both of the stations here in Nashville hit me up. What is it, 102.5 and 104.5 The Zone, which is where I'm at now. Interview for them, one interview pretty much, and I was in. So it's been good for me. I do think I wish I had taken more time off just to get my body right, have time and everything like that to get my mentals. But what I will say to people who are trying to get into that space, who are either current athletes or former athletes, stay in it. It's easier to get them to call you when you're more familiar with them, is what I had going on. I retired in March, right before COVID hit, right as COVID hit, and I was working in August. I got announced, I think, August 9th, 2020. And I've been in it ever since.
But that's what I prefer to is when the curtain closes, it closes. So you want to try to keep that curtain open as long as you can so that you can,
easily
turn that corner.
Yeah. And for me, it was a little bit of blessings, luck, and definitely timing for sure. But I was determined to get in regardless because I had been laying down little seeds here and there to make sure people were familiar with me.
Well, you start thinking about, this transition, and you start going through the process early on in your career, mid to the end of your career, getting those reps in, and then you're doing it on the side. Your full-time job is to play football. Mm-hmm. Now you in it for real. Yeah. It's full-time. Was there any challenging days that you had to realize, like, man, how do I get my schedule aligned? How do I, hey, I messed up in this segment. How do I push past it? How did you use those same intangibles that you use in football to push past some of the highs and lows? Yeah, particularly the lows in the industry.
Wasn't afraid to mess up. I was nervous as heck. I ain't gonna lie to you. I wanted to appease to the crowd, make sure I had live reads, like being on air. Moan, it's your read right here. Like I had for endorsements and stuff. Having to do that and not sound like a robot and more personal. Like, and knowing that messing up is a part of the job. I think sometimes people get into position, think I'm supposed to be Mr. Perfect. That's not the case. We're just asking you to increase your value day by day, which is what I did. The scheduling part of it. I work mornings. My show is from 6 to 10. So adjusting to that and knowing when to shut off, because I'm a person, I'm always yes, usually. We're pleasers as offensive linemen for the most part, right? And knowing when to say no. I've started to say no more often. Knowing that family time.
Glad you didn't say no to me today.
It's always going to be an automatic for you, okay? We can run this back because I'm enjoying it. But knowing when to say no. Yeah. And also, this is the part that gets you when you're more in a public space, when it's not really performance. There are going to be some agitators that just want to ruffle your feathers. And having to be in a spot to where I know I can crush this person. I know this person will never say this face to face to me. And having to humble yourself or minimize yourself to not give that light. Because there's some days where it's just like, well, you were wrong on, I know I was wrong on that. But they want to get you in the gotcha moments. Or the other side of it, the biggest challenge to me is, if they see this, these people, is the fraternizing that you have to do with folks that'll judge you a little bit different in the industry. Like there are some folks that can't wait that work in the industry, like media people that cover the teams, that can't wait to get you, oh, you're a pro player type of guy, or you're a pro team type of guy. Well, my mentality is this. Most times the player is the most important commodity. Right? So I will side with the players a little bit more. Or, hey, I'm of the mindset because I had to grind through it the same as you, I'm a win more times than not. So as it pertains to Steelers, Vols, or even now the Titans, who I cover, I always think there's a chance to win because I understand the mental makeup of a player and their expectations on performance. And having to deal with people that never played before say, well, you were wrong. All right, yeah. In hindsight, I am. And just having to suppress like what you really want to say to them has been, I ain't gonna say one of those challenges, just an adjustment that I've had to make because I'm in their field as a former player. I got a little bit more stock in it because I was on the field, but they got more stock because they've been journalists their whole lives. And have to just be like, this ain't a conversation that I'm willing to have, or see it and ignore it.
Well, I mean, are you still able to, while covering the Titans, be around some of the players, share some of this wisdom that you have, that you've learned throughout your career, so that you can stay connected with the players in a way that a lot of journalists can't?
To that same point, I'm trying to build up my stock with them. I don't want to just be the OG. Like I'm 38 now, so I'm probably 10 years older than like a Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey's what, maybe 27? Like I'm 10 years older than him in a sense. So I try not to overstep my boundaries. What they do know is this: they can trust me. When it comes time for me to have conversation with them, it's player to player. It's never like media to player.
Because they know you've been there.
They know I've been there.
That's
I can
fair.
always usually get guys to unlock, but I try to separate myself. Like if you seek me out, I got some stuff for you, but I don't want to overimpose a locker room that's not mine. If a guy, like I had a conversation with UT this past spring, and they asked me to come up and speak, and some guys reached out and I have conversation with them and stuff like that. But I try to also remove myself unless I'm sought out, because you know how you don't want to be the know-it-all guy. If you ask me, we can develop that. But there have been a few guys here and there that hey, you should probably try this or that, and it's going well for them.
I've gotten to a place now where I when I want to give someone advice, I would ask them and say, hey, would you like to hear my opinion? Would you like to hear my thought? Because I'm known for, hey man, think about doing this, think about doing that. And now I had to train myself to do that because of, people think you know it all. And I'm not trying to be a know-it-all. I just want to see you succeed. I want to help you. But I can see how it can be taken that way. And being self-aware enough now, and it's been a learning process that I can do that. So man, it's been a great conversation with you, and your journey has been just so impressive, but also so inspiring because of what you've dealt with and how you mentally handle it and not just let it crumble you. 'Cause again, we know you probably can name a lot of guys who you grew up with that had a lot of talent, but just didn't have the most expensive real estate in these 6 spaces here.
Yeah.
It was these 6 inches
Yeah.
to have that fortitude to get through and get to the next level. So I commend you for your career. You know, and I appreciate you as a friend and what you're doing now. And, you know, anything that you want to leave this group, follow me here. Listen, because again, you have a lot of great words to say. So any charity things that you're doing that you want people to know about, feel free to share with us.
Oh, I'm just on social media at Ramon Foster, at the Ramon Foster on Instagram. I'm around the city. If you ever see me out, I'm always available for a conversation, man. My only advice to anybody is just because of where you are doesn't mean you need to stay there.
Yeah.
I have, in a sense, helped change my family's trajectory, breaking chains, trying to be a better husband, father. But if you see me out, I'm usually out all the time. Don't be afraid to say something. I ain't really got no charity. I'll support anybody's for the most part. I do some stuff around the city, but I was never the type that I wanted to have my own because it's hard having charities.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And I got 2 young boys, and I'm a young parent myself, and we are travel basketball, baseball, football. Like, hey, got everything going on.
It's busy.
It is.
Well, last question for you on our way out. The one intangible that you're the most proud of that you can look at and say, this is the one that I really have hung my hat on throughout my career and even within my transition out of professional sports.
The one intangible, even outside of sports, I'm going to find a way.
I'm going to find a way.
I'm going to find a way.
You're going to find a way.
I'm a middle child. And even more too, like I lost my mom right before she turned 50 in my 2014 season with the Steelers. Having to pick up what all that she left behind, not necessarily with my siblings, but family dealing with that. Figuring out how to be a husband, figuring out how to be a dad, a good friend. I'm still figuring that one out because I'll get busy and just forget stuff. But that's always been my mindset, whether it's how I'm going to pay rent in college, how I'm at 22 years old with a child that I don't know what to do. My son had open heart surgery when he was 5 months old, and I'm training for the combine. I'm going to find a way. Like figuring out this Nashville media and my businesses that I'm doing and the involvement that I have with people. You open up a door, I'm going to find a way.
There it is, people. Mr. Ramon Foster, Mr. Find a Way. Thanks for coming on today.
Man,
we really enjoyed it.
We can do this again anytime you want.